Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is The Housewife Did It.
True Crime Edition. And
Woo!
what other edition is it, Katie? What does it sound like? What kind of edition?
Oh, Mary's sick.
Yes,
Edition.
a sultry edition.
Sultry.
Um, anyway, if you like our show, I did score us a new listener this week. So if you're here, you can like, subscribe, share it with your friends, share with strangers, share with your family, share with your pets, share with your hairdresser.
Your pets would love to listen to Mary's
Your
sultry voice.
yes.
Very
Um,
calming.
yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can leave us a 5-star review. We right now I looked at our show today and it is set at 5 stars. But we only have 4 reviews, so some diversity. Not
Not
diversity in the
diversity in
number of
stars,
stars, but
please.
like diversity in number of reviews.
Sure.
Maybe some comments.
Mm-hmm.
And then your reward is that you can go over to Every Jules, it is spelled EVRY Jules, and use the code Mary788 for a percentage off of your order.
Woo!
Yes. All right. I have 2 real-time true crimes today. Um, First, both of the Menendez brothers have now been denied parole. I think Lyle's parole hearing was on Friday. Um, so Eric had already been in the news, but Lyle has now also been denied parole. Eric's daughter, Talia Menendez, regularly tries to post like updates on the two of them on her Instagram. And now that they've been denied parole, she is planning to renew her plea for their release. And on Instagram, she posted, "I'm praying for my Uncle Lyle after he got the same verdict as Eric. I am extremely saddened by the decision. It was a complete setup from the inside. You can all judge me for being angry. I'm standing on 10 toes for my family. We will not stop until they are free. Our fight is not over." And then in another post, she said, "People can have different views of this being a win or not. When you've been let down time and time again, the highest your hopes have ever been, watching your family get older and older with no violence while incarcerated, things start to change. This is deeper than the surface level. Enough is enough." So
Yeah.
she a fighter.
Yeah, it just seems like they why did we give them the opportunity to
Right.
be up for parole if the answer was just gonna be no? But I mean, maybe that's different groups of people that decide each of those things, but
Yeah. Also, Lil Nas X was arrested and then briefly hospitalized for what was likely a drug overdose. I've seen people say it's confirmed he had a drug overdose. I've seen others say speculated, so I'm not totally sure, but I think probably yes, that's what it was. Um LAPD had responded to reports of a man wearing only a pair of underwear and cowboy boots catwalking along Ventura Boulevard in Studio City around 6 a.m. on Thursday morning. In
that
a
can't be
video,
that strange for them, right?
right, in Studio City, right.
Mm-hmm.
In a video from the time of the report, he is seen incoherently speaking or trying to speak to the person who is taking the video.
Mm.
When police arrived, he had stripped down completely nude and then charged at the officers and allegedly battered an officer and was arrested for battery assault. After being released from the hospital, he was transferred to a jail in Van Nuys where he was booked on a misdemeanor charge of obstructing an officer. Leading up to the incident, he had been posting some strange things on Instagram, including photos of piles of his belongings and art, as well as clips of unreleased songs of his. And so people were kind of already a little worried about him
Mm-hmm.
and his mental health. So I think this is probably connected to that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, time for our story.
Let's do it.
On February 21st, 2001, 22-year-old Ashley Ellerin was in her home in Hollywood preparing for a date. She had been seeing a new guy that she had met at a New Year's Eve party, and they had planned an evening to meet up and go out for dinner and drinks. And she was especially excited about this new guy because she had recently cut off an affair she was having with her landlord, Mark Durbin. Ashley's date was running late, having been previously attending a Grammy Awards watch party at his friend's house. And so when he arrived at Ashley's door, it was around 10:45 p.m. He knocked and she wasn't answering. He tried looking
What
through
time
the
was their date? That sounds more than a little late.
It's disputed.
Mm.
Because some people say that she's supposed to go to the party with him, and so like she was expecting him to be there kind of late. He tried to look through the like front window on the door and saw spilled wine all over the floor. He said he just kind of assumed that she had partaken in drinks alone and would not be coming out with him, and so he returned to his house. The next morning, Ashley's roommate found her body with 47 stab wounds in her head, neck, chest, stomach, and back. Ashley's roommate, Jennifer DeSisto, ran out of the house thinking the perpetrator could still be there. She dropped the landline phone and got in her car and used her cell phone to call 911. Ashley had been lying just outside the bathroom across two small stairs, and it was clear she had just gotten out of the shower when she had been stabbed. So that also makes me think like maybe he wasn't that late if she's just now taking her shower and like starting to get ready.
How do we know?
But we also, yeah, that's true. We don't know how long it's been.
Sure.
That she's been laying there. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of Ashley's neck wounds had nearly severed her head, and one of the stab wounds to her head had penetrated her skull and took out a portion of the bone like a puzzle piece.
Oh my god. Like it came back out with it?
Maybe. Or maybe just broke off.
Yeah.
Police started their interrogations, beginning with the landlord, who admitted he had been the last person to see Ashley alive and that they had been intimate that evening. They learned that the home was double gated, and it was likely that Ashley would have had to let her killer into the home, pointing it to being someone she was familiar with. So,
but how did but the date was able to get past both gates without her letting him in?
Well, it could have also been like her landlord or his wife letting him in.
Sure. But I just meant like couldn't they have let the killer in too? Like if the date was able to get to her front door.
There was also like no sign of
Or did they just
entry.
mean let the killer into the actual home?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then they talked to her date, 23-year-old Ashton Kutcher. When police told him that his date had not stood him up, but had in fact been murdered, he said he was freaked out and absolutely horrified. And it clicked that the wine stain he thought he had seen was not wine. He told police that he had spoken to Ashley on the phone earlier that evening or earlier that day, and then again around 8:20 p.m. when she said she was getting out of the shower. So that's what time she got out of the shower. And then tried to call her again that evening when he got back home.
Wait, so she gets out of the shower, talks to Ashton at 8:20, but then is like immediately murdered.
I guess so.
Like as soon as she hangs up, or like, Ashton, did you not hear nothing?
I guess so.
Hmm.
He told police that when she didn't answer, the phone call when he returned home and hadn't answered the door, that he assumed either that he had bad service or that Ashley was ignoring him because he thought maybe she was upset that he had been late to pick her up.
Which
for their
wouldn't be
date.
that crazy.
Right. Ashley's friends also had some good information to share. So Ashley was a part-time fashion student, but like many people in Hollywood, she also had dreams of being an actress. She had a solid group of friends in Hollywood, and her friends were Chris Duran, Jennifer DeSisto, and Justin Peterson. They describe themselves as young, free-spirited, and they love to party. They described Ashley as amazing, charismatic, beautiful, fun, and spontaneous. She had a lot of friends in the Hollywood Hills, and they said that when she walked into a room, she had complete control over it. Like, everyone was paying attention to her. They all in their friend group had dreams of either acting or modeling. And these friends are actually who introduced Ashley to Ashton Kutcher. They had also recently introduced another member to the friend group, a man named Michael Gargiulo. That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Gargiulo had moved to LA from Illinois and pretty quickly got cast as a boxer in a thesis short film called Boxing's Been Good to Me that was being directed by a USC film student. The director named Temple Brown, who's actually she is from Memphis, said that she had chosen Gargiulo for the role because he had some boxing experience and had like the physique of a fighter. At the time when he was living in LA initially, he had been a bouncer and was training to be a professional fighter while also trying to book acting and modeling gigs. His friends at the time said he always had girlfriends and that women always wanted his attention. They said when they like went out to eat, the waitresses always took a liking to Michael. Like he was very attractive, everyone loved him, kind of thing.
Perfect
Around
for LA.
Around 2001, Gargiulo left working at the nightclub and instead began working for a heating and cooling company. And one day, Chris Duran, who's one of Ashley's friends, was changing a flat tire on his car outside of Ashley's house when this man approached him and offered to help him with the tire. As they were working on the car, Ashley came out of the house and joined in on the conversation. And Chris said that Gargiulo immediately took notice of Ashley, and he realized like Ashley also seemed interested in him. And so he said, like, you know what, I can finish changing the tire myself. Y'all chit chat. And he said that he just like let them flirt. They exchanged numbers. And Chris said that he and Ashley both really enjoyed like getting to know Michael that day. He had been helpful and kind. He was around their age and good looking, and it seemed like he would make a really good addition to the group. However, the more Gargiulo hung out with the group, the less they seemed to want him around. So he had begun to call Ashley's house pretty often and then began showing up uninvited to her house. One night,
People get past the two gates all the time.
Yeah.
Apparently.
One night, he came into Ashley's house during a party and sat down with her, but she had like really lost interest in him at that point and didn't want to engage in like a conversation with him anymore. So she kind of just ignored him at that party. And her friends told police that they like initially couldn't think of anyone who would want to hurt Ashley. They thought of her as like the life of the party. She was a friend to everyone she met. But then they thought about this guy who had become kind of fixated on her, Mike Gargiulo. So they told police that he had been kind of creeping them out, but they didn't feel like police really thought of him as much of a threat or like looked into him.
But she like also had a history of and probably would have continued to, like, turn him down. So, like, if he had come to her house that day, like, she would have said, like, no, thank you.
Like, the friends saying he's creepy, I think really comes more from Ashley thinking he's creepy.
Sure.
Around the same time, police in Cook County, Illinois, just outside of Ohio, were taking a new look at an unsolved case from about 10 years before. On August 13th, 1993, 18-year-old Trisha Picaccio was stabbed to death on her back doorstep. Her body was found by her father on their back porch the following morning. Police hadn't been able to narrow in on a suspect, and the family was continuing to call once or twice a week, like asking for updates and trying to get information. In 1999, the case was taken over by new team members, and then in 2002, they felt confident that DNA testing had come far enough to add something to their investigation. So they sent off a sample from Trisha's fingernails, and they just had to find out who it belonged to. So there wasn't, like, initially a match to anyone in the system, but it was a good sample, and they could see that it was like a male sample. They just had to figure out whose it was. So police took DNA samples from Trisha's family, friends, and even her dog. They were like, they're saying that like it's such a smart, like, oh, we worked so hard. Y'all know it's not a fucking dog.
Yeah, you can't
You're
tell the difference.
Wasting time.
Come on now.
And then they also wanted to get samples from everyone they had interviewed as a potential suspect back in 93, including one Michael Gargiulo.
From Illinois, Ohio?
He's from Illinois, but the county he lives in is, like, right outside of Ohio.
I know, but I'm saying, so the same guy that they're looking at for Hollywood was in Illinois, and Illinois near Ohio.
Yeah, he's from Cook County.
Crazy.
Yeah. So they found out that Michael was living in Los Angeles, and they called them. They talked to Detective Tom Small, who had been investigating Ashley's murder in LA, and Cook County Police let him know that they were in town. They had already flown out there, and they were hoping for some help in finding a potential murder suspect. So they gave Detective Small their suspect's name, and he said he was floored. So he said, "Come down here, please."
Yeah.
They met him at the police station, and he showed them a photo of Michael Gargiulo and asked, like, "Is this the guy?" And they were like, "How do you know him?" And he said, well, he's a potential suspect in a murder investigation in our jurisdiction as well.
From 8 years ago.
Well, at this point, it was 1 year ago.
Oh, I thought this Ashley one occurred in 2001.
Yes, it's 2002.
But I thought the Illinois one occurred in 93.
Yes.
So 8 years before 2001.
Right.
It was
but
93.
What I'm saying is that LA is the one who said he's a suspect in our murder investigation too. Yeah.
Okay. So the 93 investigation is just behind?
It had gone cold, I think, and they were like they had a new team come out. Yeah.
Sure.
So the two police departments teamed up to find Michael Gargiulo and collect his DNA. They were able to track him down, and he very reluctantly provided his DNA, which came back as a match to the DNA found on Trisha's fingernails.
Wow.
Ding, ding, ding.
Not the dog.
Yeah, surprise. Detective Lou Sala of Cook County, Illinois, felt sure this would be like a slam dunk. And then the DA said that they would need corroborating evidence before they would press charges. They were like, DNA on her fingernails means nothing. They felt that it was
Other than the fact that
possible.
she scratched him.
Yeah, they felt that it was possible that Gargiulo's DNA had gotten on Trisha in a different way. So at the time of her murder, Gargiulo was, first of all, he was 17. Secondly, he was like a family friend. So it just said, it was worded really weird. It said like he was, or Trisha was the sister of his friend.
Okay.
So I don't know the gender of that friend. So I don't know if it's her brother or sister, but he was friends with her sibling.
Okay.
He was around the same age. And so he was over there a lot. They said like he could easily have been spending time with the Piccaccio kids. And in fact, Gargiulo did have a reason to explain why his DNA may have been found on Trisha. The day before Trisha was murdered, Gargiulo and his friend Scott Olson were driving around the neighborhood, and he said they drove past the Piccaccio's house and they saw Trisha walking down the street and going around the corner. And Gargiulo pulled the car over behind Trisha and she was crying. And he said that Trisha asked them to give her a ride to her friend's house. And so Gargiulo drove her there and dropped her off. And so he's like it's very possible that like my DNA got on her fingernails by her being in my car, me giving her a ride, having a moment with her, you know. So with this information, the investigators decided they did not have enough evidence to charge him with either of the murders, and the investigation into Michael Gargiulo stalled. So then Michael Gargiulo moved out of Los Angeles and moved to El Monte, California, which is a suburb about 20 miles east of Hollywood. And on December 1st, 2005, a woman in his apartment complex was found murdered. Strange. 32-year-old
Must have been her dog.
Right. 32-year-old Maria Bruno had been stabbed 17 times and her breasts had been mutilated. According to the police investigation, Maria had been asleep in her bed when she was attacked. Maria was a recently single mother of 4 children. She had a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and 2-year-old twins. She had just moved into that apartment after leaving her husband, because in the months leading up to her murder, Maria's husband had become violent and was regularly instigating fights, and the final straw for her was when he punched her in the face. So she moved out, and they said she specifically chose this apartment complex in El Monte because it was a gated complex that required a pass code or a key to get in. Of course,
so she was just trying to make sure that her husband couldn't find her.
Right. Of course, if the killer lives in the complex, they would easily be able to bypass security.
Sure.
So police believed the killer had entered through the kitchen of the apartment and picked up a knife from there. They said he must have snuck around security, and so I was picturing like the kind of apartment that you lived in Minnesota, where there's a lobby that you enter through and all of the doors face into a hallway, versus the kind of apartment complex I've lived in where all of the doors are outward facing. And you just walk up to your apartment. But then I looked it up and it is outward facing doors. And so I don't think that he snuck around the security guard. I think he just lived there.
I was gonna say, unless they mean at the gate. So I'm picturing at your college.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too.
They're saying he snuck around, but that's them assuming that it's a person who doesn't live there.
Right.
But they would have to sneak around the security guard to even get past the gate.
Right. And I think that's probably not exactly what happened. I think the person had what they needed to get in.
Yeah.
But then they entered Maria's apartment through the kitchen and took one of her kitchen knives. The only evidence left behind at the scene was a blue cotton bootie dropped in the courtyard outside of Maria's apartment with a drop of blood on the sole.
Like
But
what
the
you
blood
put on to not get like
Mhm.
feet marks in people's houses? Okay.
Yes. And do you know what's so crazy? This is literally this is how the first episode of Based on a True Story starts. Is like it's a serial killer story, and that's how they the main characters figure out that it's their plumber, is
Oh.
because he wears those booties. And I was like, did they get the idea from this case? Because it's also set in LA. So very interesting. But yes, that is what I'm talking about. But the blood on the sole of the booty came back as Maria's blood.
Okay.
Um,
And this was found,
police.
you said, in the parking lot?
It was in like a courtyard
Okay, but not in her
outside of the
apartment.
apartment. No, yeah.
Okay.
Again, like I the way it's set up is like the outward facing doors, and then they face to a courtyard and a pool. I put pictures
Okay.
of it in our album.
Am I allowed to look at them yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's just pictures of the people in the
Okay.
apartment.
And Kanye West.
Yeah, for separate reason. So police immediately wanted to question Maria's douchebag husband. They had found blood inside of his car. That
in the husband's car?
Yes, that were Maria's.
Okay.
But when they questioned him, he quickly explained that. He said that the evening Maria was killed, they had gone to a restaurant to discuss like the future of their relationship, and they had ultimately decided to give it another shot. And then the husband said that shortly before they left the restaurant, Maria cut her finger, but they were like getting their check and leaving, and so her finger was still bleeding when they got into the car. And then when they went to corroborate his story, the manager of the restaurant said that that was true. He remembered her cutting her finger, and he remembered that she was bleeding when they exited the restaurant. So Maria's husband was dropped as a suspect, and the case went cold.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, it could, not that it is, apparently, but, like, it could have also just been blood from him, like, hitting her.
Right.
You know? Like, it didn't have to be murder blood to be, like, I'm a shitty husband blood.
Right. Around the same time, Michael Gargiulo and his girlfriend welcomed a baby girl into the world. And
in that same apartment?
Mm-hmm. And pretty soon after, he left the two of them and moved to Santa Monica.
Okay.
And as luck would have it, in 2008, another woman was attacked in Santa Monica.
Crazy.
I know. On April 28th, 2008, Sergeant Richard Lewis got a call at about 12:30 a.m., dispatching him to the scene of a stabbing and attempted murder.
Tempted. What a failure. What a loser.
When he arrived at the scene, he could see that the attacker had entered the apartment of 26-year-old Michelle Murphy through an open window. And they believe he had moved across the apartment and opened the front door and then went into Michelle's bedroom. Michelle was sleeping and woke up as she was being stabbed. So, like, being stabbed is what woke her up.
I mean, that will do it.
Her attacker stabbed her several times in her chest, shoulder, right arm, and hands. Michelle had been trying to reach out and grab the knife to stop the attack, and that's how she got stabbed in her hand. But somehow she had like managed to cut her attacker, which like slowed him down a little bit, and then she kicked him off of her and chased him down the hallway and out the front door. She later told police she was unable to see him because he was wearing a hood, but that as she chased him out of her home, he was like dripping with blood, and he just said, "I'm sorry." No, don't sit. Don't.
Not like cute.
Michelle called her boyfriend, and he called 911. And he told the 911 operator that his girlfriend had been injured by someone who had woken her up by climbing on top of her, but that she had forced them off and they ran away. So fire and police headed toward Michelle, and they got on the phone with her, and they like talked to her, kept her on the phone to see if they could get a description of the man who had attacked her as they were trying to get to her. So she told them that he had been wearing dark pants and a dark sweatshirt. He was probably no taller than 5'11". Michelle was 5'1". And really all of the women we're talking about were petite. Maria only weighed 90 pounds. Like, if you've seen pictures of Ashley Ellerin, she's also, like, really petite. But because Michelle had cut her attacker so severely and he ran off, police were able to collect a good blood sample from the concrete steps of the walkway leading out of the apartment and into the alley next to it. So he had dripped blood out of her apartment, down the hallway.
They said, we got your path.
Down the steps and into the alley.
Yeah. I always, like, I saw someone do this on Instagram. Like, they had a friend that was like a, what's it called? Like a sketch artist. And they, like, tried to give a good enough description for their friend to draw it and see if they could draw Timothée Chalamet by their description.
Yeah, I love those videos.
But it's like, I just know, like, if you, like, Billy will ask me how old, like, a kid was, and I'm like, anywhere from 4 to 12.
Right.
And Billy's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And, like, height is, like, one of those things for me.
Yes.
Like, if you ask me...
I think about that every time I do
The only way, like, I could maybe, if I was, like, literally having to, like, look up at them super hard, I would probably say that to police. I hurt my neck looking at them.
Right.
But, like, I don't know how tall somebody is.
Yes. Also,
but I mean, I guess if you're 5'1", like, you know, like, this person was, like, very much taller than me. But isn't everyone very much taller than you at that point? So, like, I don't know. I couldn't do heights.
I think, like, no taller than 5'11", fair, you know? I think I would know if someone was, like, over 6 feet. Maybe.
I don't know because, like, in my head, I know the numbers, so it's, like, hard for me to know for sure. But, like, I would obviously tell you that, like, your husband is taller than our dad, and our dad is taller than my husband.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I wouldn't know what those numbers are. Like, I would just be like, if you lined them up, but I would probably guess that dad's, like, not that much shorter than Sammy, but he is.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't...
He's what, like 5'10"?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sammy's 6'3".
Billy's 5'8". Sorry, Billy. Just told the internet. Short king.
So it took about 25 days for the results to come in, and when they did, the DNA sample was conclusively linked to Michael Gargiulo.
See,
upon
this is kind of sad.
Yes.
Okay. This is kind of sad because if you've been with us for a while and you also listen to our pop culture, then I really wanted this to be Ashton Kutcher.
We'll get there. Don't worry. I will come for Ashton Kutcher yet. So, upon further investigating their new suspect, police learned that Gargiulo had been living directly across from Michelle and from his apartment.
Lived everywhere that these things happen.
From his apartment, he had a clear view into Michelle's bedroom window.
Awesome.
When police arrested Gargiulo for the attempted murder of Michelle Murphy on June 6, 2008, he said, "Which agency is this?" Which, to police, sounded like evidence that Gargiulo had been committing crimes in several different places.
Mm-hmm.
Police were able to learn that, similar to the situation with Michelle, Gargiulo also had a clear view into Maria Bruno's apartment. And she had told her friends that she had a strange feeling about the guy who lived across the street because he was looking in her windows.
Yeah.
And then they found out that to watch Ashley Ellerin, he would take his dog to the park across from her house and stalk her looking in her windows. So when police searched Gargiulo's home. They found the match to the blue booty found outside of Maria's apartment, which is crazy because it has been 3 years.
Put it in the trash.
On September 4th, 2008, while in jail for the attempted murder of Michelle Murphy, Michael Gargiulo was indicted for the murders of Ashley Ellerin and Maria Bruno. Gargiulo was quickly dubbed the Hollywood Ripper and the Chiller Killer. He told police that even if they found his blood at the murder scenes of 10 different women, it didn't make him guilty, and that he considered himself a 100% innocent man wrongfully convicted, and said that all he could do was remain calm and fight for his innocence. He said that, and they were like, so you've killed 10 women?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I have killed, first of all, 0 women.
Yeah, obviously.
But I think he probably was speaking more hypothetically. Like, you could find my blood at 100 crime scenes, and I didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Blood. He's just trying to say, like, blood doesn't make me. Which is like, I guess by living there, like, you have a little bit of an out to be like, I just bleed a lot, and this is my neighborhood, so, like, I'm allowed to bleed in my neighborhood. But the unfortunate part is that your blood is not showing up on living women's properties.
Right.
Ever.
Oh, it's crazy. On July 7th, 2011, Gargiulo was indicted for the murder of Trisha Boccaccio in Glenview, Illinois. Tamir Leary, who had been a friend of Gargiulo's from his bouncer days, was watching an episode of 48 Hours about the Hollywood Ripper and how Gargiulo had never been charged for the murder of Trisha Boccaccio when he was 17 years old. So Tamir reached out to another bouncer friend of theirs, Anthony DiLorenzo, and told him about the episode. He was like, our friend has turned out to be a serial killer. And then he said that he told him that he had been really moved watching the show, and specifically watching Trisha's father speak about the lack of justice for his daughter. And Tamir and Anthony thought about their own children that they now had and what they would do to protect them. So they reached out to 48 Hours to let them know that they may have some information on Trisha's case. In 2000, Gargiulo had confessed to Tamir and Anthony that he had murdered a girl in Chicago or near Chicago, saying, you guys ever kill anybody? I have. I buried a bitch. I left the bitch on the steps for dead.
So not buried.
Right.
Okay.
At the time, Anthony were less than model citizens.
Okay.
They had been in and out of jail themselves, and on top of that, they didn't really know if they believed him.
They were like, he's peacocking, like...
Right. Like, they were like, especially because, like, they had been kind of in and out of jail, their bouncers, like, they're like, okay, he's, like, trying to be tough. Sure. And so they weren't, like, super sure. But now, 18 years after Trisha had been killed, Tamir and Anthony were sure that it was true. And
I bet there's at least 10. For that many years?
They, starting at 17.
Yeah.
And, like, he's only, like, 45 now.
Yeah, like, there's something about you that can't stop.
Right. 48 Hours put Tamir and Anthony in touch with Chicago authorities to present their story, and Michael Gargiulo was finally charged with the murder of Trisha Boccaccio. The 48 Hours team described Gargiulo's murders as some of the most horrible cases they had ever seen. They talked about him as a man who had systematically spied on, stalked, stabbed, and slaughtered specifically beautiful, young, attractive, outgoing women. And only one of them was able to escape with her life. The police were surprised that the television show is what helped them solve an almost 2-decade-old murder case, but they were able to successfully link the cases together and get a monster. So, a pretrial hearing was held on June 9th, 2017.
Jesus.
In the Los Angeles Supreme Court, and a trial date was set for October of 2017. After several delays, the trial actually began on May 2nd, 2019. Michael Gargiulo had waited nearly 11 years for his trial, which was a record in LA County jail history. During that time, he had faced almost 100 hearings. He had changed lawyers multiple times and at one point tried to represent himself. When the case actually started, he had a new court-appointed lawyer team. His trial was ready, and the prosecution was like presenting their strongest case, all of their witnesses ready to go. So the trial began on May 2nd, 2019. The prosecutors accused Gargiulo of murdering 3 women and attempting to murder a 4th. Prosecutor Dan Ackman, Ackerman? I feel like we've heard of him before.
Aikman, I think.
Yeah, Aikman.
I don't know.
Described Gargiulo as a serial killer who stalked and brutally attacked women over a 15-year period from 1993 until his arrest in 2008. Michelle Murphy, the only survivor, testified about her harrowing experience. And in her account, she described a struggle with her attacker during which she not only fought back, but also was left-handed.
Wait, say that again. You cut out.
She in her account, she talked about how she fought back, but she also pointed out that he was left-handed.
Oh, okay.
And then his DNA had been found throughout her bedroom, down the hallway, into the alley.
Mm-hmm.
So the prosecution also talked about the murders of other victims, Maria Bruno, and apparently Maria Bruno's husband is the one who discovered her body and reported the crime as well.
So he was coming around.
Yeah, they had gone on a date that night.
Why did he come? Okay.
He said they went on a date and they decided to restart their marriage. So like
he was just going to be continuing to come around. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Evidence pointed to Gargiulo's entry into her apartment through a window where he wore blue surgical booties that later contained traces of his DNA and Maria's DNA. They went through the case of Ashley Ellerin, a 22-year-old fashion student who was murdered before her planned date with Ashton Kutcher, who then testified at the trial. He reiterated the same story. He arrived late, found signs of a struggle, reported that he thought he would be implicated because his fingerprints were at the crime scene.
He thought that at the time, or he thought that later?
Yeah. So we're going to watch a video of Ashton Kutcher's testimony because we hate Ashton Kutcher, and I want us to pick this man apart.
Ashton Kutcher taking the stand, testifying against a man accused of being a Hollywood serial killer. Kutcher saying he went to the home of one of the victims just moments after prosecutors say she was killed. ABC's Adrian Bankert is in Los Angeles with more on this story. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning to you too, Amy. Yes, this is one of the nation's most notorious crimes. And now Ashton Kutcher is one of more than 100 witnesses set to testify in the now infamous murder trial. This morning, all eyes on Ashton Kutcher, the Hollywood heartthrob, now turned star witness in the so-called Hollywood Ripper trial. Kutcher, appearing on the stand Wednesday, sporting a mustache and dressed in a blue suit, describes the night 18 years ago when his friend and romantic interest, Ashley Ellerin, was stabbed 40 times. Kutcher says the two had plans to meet for a drink that evening, but when Ashley didn't answer his calls, he swung by the house and tells the jury, "I knocked on the door, there was no answer. Knocked again, and once again, no answer." He adds, "At this point, I pretty well assumed she had left for the night and that I was late and she was upset." Ashton testifies that when he went to Ellerin's house, all the lights were on, adding, "It was a little bit of a mess. I saw what I thought was red wine spilled on the carpet," adding, "I didn't really think anything of it." Police now believe that red wine was really blood. Prosecutors say the 22-year-old model and fashion student was likely already dead, killed allegedly by this man, Michael Gargiulo, a neighborhood air conditioner repairman who is now on trial for her murder along with a string of others. Prosecutors describe Gargiulo as a serial sexual thrill killer who got pleasure from killing beautiful women, butchering 3 of them, including Ellerin. His 4th allegedly survived. Prosecutors allege his murder spree started with killing 18-year-old Trisha Pacaccio in Chicago in 1993, then Ellerin in Los Angeles in 2001, 32-year-old Maria Bruno murdered in California. Prosecutors say in April of 2008, 27-year-old Michelle Murphy was attacked by Gargiulo, also in California, but she survived.
His hobby was plotting the perfect opportunity to attack women with a knife in and around.
So I lied. It's not actually his testimony, but it's what he said.
Sure.
And apparently I've been saying that man's name wrong this entire time.
Gargiulo.
Gargiulo, but who cares?
Yeah.
So, yes, basically,
I think it's weird that it's 10:45 at night and all the lights are on and you can't see more. I mean, like, I guess I don't know, like, where she is and, like, if it is seeable, but it's like, it just seems like you should be able to see fucking everything.
Yeah. So, from what I've seen, I don't think there is actual, like, video of his full testimony. But what I've heard is that, like, he sounds very nervous and that he, like immediately upon his interview with police was like, now you're going to find my DNA. And then kind of reiterates all the things he talked about with them at the time of the murder. As the trial progressed, the prosecution built a case around Gargiulo's pattern of stalking and attacking women. They described his history of violence and obsession with serial killers, suggesting that he derived sexual pleasure from exerting power over his victims. And then, in his defense, Gargiulo's attorney argued that someone else may have committed the crimes, focusing on Mark Durbin having killed Ashley Ellerin since they had an affair. And then they also raised doubts about any evidence linking Gargiulo to the murders because there was really no, like, DNA found at the scene of Ashley's murder. So they were like, oh, well, you got some blood and some fingernail DNA, like, means nothing. Sure. But despite that, the jury, after 3 months of testimony and deliberation, the jury found Gargiulo guilty of attempted murder and for 2 counts of first-degree murder. On August 15th, 2019, Gargiulo was convicted on all counts, and his penalty trial was set for October. On October 7th, 2019, the penalty trial in California began, and on October 18th, a jury decided to sentence Michael Gargiulo to death, but the actual sentencing was delayed by defense motions. So on July 16th, 2021, Michael Gargiulo was sentenced to death. So this verdict brought a sense of justice to the families of the California victims. However, the case of Trisha Pacaccio, Gargiulo's first alleged victim from 1993, technically remained unsolved, as he had not yet faced trial for her murder in Illinois. So the Pacaccio family was hoping that the recent verdicts would lead to further action in their daughter's case. And on September 6th, 2024, 31 years after her murder, Gargiulo was extradited to Illinois to go to trial for Trisha Pacaccio's murder with a potential sentencing of life without parole. Which I don't know how that plays out with being put to death in California, but well, you know. So before we go,
yeah, if I wonder what Illinois does. Probably not, right? They probably
well,
don't.
it says the only thing on the table is life without parole. Before we go, I ask that everyone take a second to put on their tinfoil hats. So the reason I chose to do this case was because Sammy told me the other day that he thought Ashton Kutcher had killed Ashley Ellerin.
Mm-hmm.
Not because, like, he just believes he did it, but, like, he thought that that was the story.
Mhm.
And I was
Yeah.
like, and they just let him live his life. But then I thought, I hadn't considered that. But we here at the Housewife Did It are longtime haters of Mr.
Mhm.
Kutcher.
Mhm.
So I wanted to look at it a little more. If you too hate Ashton Kutcher, we have mentioned his questionable ethics and behavior in our episodes over.
There she is.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let me say it again. We have mentioned Ashton Kutcher's questionable ethics and behavior on our episodes Overly Intense Sports Dad, The Murder of Arliss Perry, Rewriting History, and R.I.P. Rat House. So I was like,
That's some
if
good
if you
archival work you did there, Mary.
thank you. I said, you know what? If anyone's gonna speculate if Ashton Kutcher murdered a woman, it's gonna be me.
Of course.
So I looked into this, and what I found is less of like theories that he did it, and more like maybe he knew she was dead and didn't do anything about it, like didn't alert police.
Like maybe he thought she's dead and they're gonna think it was me, so I'm just gonna leave.
Yes. So apparently, and this is where like some different story and timeline comes in. So some people say Ashton was planning on taking Ashley to the Grammys party.
Right.
So he wasn't actually
And he's
late.
the one that said she was getting out of the shower at 8:20.
Right. So
That's 2 hours ago.
so either like there was some kind of miscommunication, or maybe like she needed a lot of time to get ready and he wasn't actually that late. But if this is the case, that would eliminate the idea that she was angry at him and ignoring him when he got to the house, especially considering that Ashley was murdered at the end of February and they had met at a New Year's Eve party. So they had kind of been dating for a good bit at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like this is their first date and this is her first impression of him. Like, she knows him. She's known him for about 2 months now. Next, Ashley was killed right outside of the bathroom, as she was exiting the shower. Ashton Kutcher claims he saw
wine,
the blood stains at the time, thinking it was wine, through the window of the front door.
Sure.
I have looked.
So he would have been almost seeing her body.
Right. Right, because like that's the other thing. It's like she was killed as she was getting out of the shower and then dropped to that spot. So if you can presumably see the blood, why can you not see her? And then again, like I've seen pictures of her house, but I can't find like the full layout. But
I just found a floor plan.
Great. People think it's probably unlikely that you would have seen the bathroom from the front door.
Yeah.
And then also, to me, it doesn't really make sense that there was that much wine by the bathroom. Like, if he's reasoning that it's wine, but he can also see that she's at the bathroom, then like I would be like, why is there so much wine on the floor by the bathroom?
Yeah.
Unless she took the whole fucking bottle in there with her
to
her shower.
How mad at him does he think that she was? She's like, I'm gonna go get drunk in my shower.
But I mean, I don't know. So, you sent me the floor plan?
Yes, but I'm so confused because this is nowhere near the kitchen. So, like, has he ever been in her house? And like, could the stains he saw have been like the killer like tracking the blood further from the bathroom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if he's looking in the window of the front door, he would have to be like pressed up against that door, like really trying to see around the corner and up those stairs. And I really doubt that he'd be able to see up those stairs that she was on.
Yeah.
So
Ashton.
I don't know.
Wait, but so then what's the theory?
Well, let me tell you.
Okay.
So people speculate that he actually entered the home and saw Ashley had been murdered inside the home, not through the window. And then this also links back to when police initially interviewed Ashton Kutcher. He like preemptively told them that they would find his prints at the scene because he knocked on or attempted to open the door. Could also be explained by if he did open the door.
Sure.
At the time Ashley was murdered, you're going to love this, Ashton Kutcher's friend Danny Masterson was dating a woman named Chrissy Bixler, who claimed that Ashton called Danny the night of the murder and she overheard them talking about a plan. She heard them talking about the word plan.
We covered this.
Yes.
When we were talking about Danny Masterson, and this woman who was Danny Masterson's ex posted and said, Ashton, I have, I don't know if she was saying she had the recording or she just could tell people what it was, but she was like, I heard you that night of that murder tell Danny that you needed to come up with some sort of plan.
Yes. So the theory is that Ashton called Danny and said that he saw Ashley was dead. And
he didn't want to be implicated for it.
Yes, he didn't want to be implicated for it. And so Danny told him to leave so that he didn't ruin his career or become a suspect in the murder. And then instead of going home, he went back to the Grammy party and told other party goers that he had been stood up and that his girlfriend was pissed at him. Chrissy is one of the women who accused Danny Masterson of raping her, which we've discussed somehow prompted Ashton and his wife Mila Kunis to write letters of admiration and defense of Masterson's character.
Which only makes sense if Danny Masterson has something on you. Or you're just a really bad person. Both.
Right. So to this, Christy posted about Kutcher saying she knows secrets about him that he wouldn't want to get out. So some wonder if those secrets are the details of that call with Masterson. She has also detailed some other secrets already. So she came out and talked about some inappropriate conversations that Danny and Ashton had about 15-year-old Hillary Duff when they were 25 and 27, as well as about 14-year-old Mila Kunis when the men were 19 and 21. Not to mention fellow That 70s Show star Wilmer Valderrama's propensity for dating teenage girls. So we discuss a lot, especially on pop culture, like you are the company you keep. And again, we are the OG haters of Ashton Kutcher. Like, I distinctly remember we said we need to take a big fat look at Ashton Kutcher, and like a week later, we were right. So I want to know like your thoughts. Do you think he was involved, or do you think he knows more than he says, or do you think he was telling the truth? What are your thoughts on Ashton Kutcher?
No, I don't really know like about the actual like what I think happened, but like I believe that woman.
Yeah.
What did you say? Chrissy
Bixler.
And we talked about that like, you know, like she said other things that were credible, and I think like she is just kind of saying like, I know why you won't go against him, but like I also have shit on you, like I could ruin your life. Like Danny's not the only one that heard this. So like I think it would be really weird. I like personally, I think I can take my tinfoil hat off and say like it would be a little bit too coincidental that he called Danny Masterson the night his girl was murdered to come up with a plan for something else. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that would be weird. If he went and saw, or he thought he was stood up, and then for some reason had to call Danny Masterson to cover up or handle something else. Like, so I think if we believe Chrissy Bixler and we believe that call happened, then yeah, he knew something. Is there a little part of me that's like, well, Ashley's the one that didn't have Gargiulo's DNA, so like maybe he was stalking her, but Ashton Kutcher is just a murderer that beat him to it. Like, but I don't necessarily, like, I don't think Ashton Kutcher probably killed her with all of this stuff about Mr. Gargiulo, but I mean, I had wondered like where the middle ground was, because if I believe that call was made and that Ashton Kutcher was up to no good that night, but I believe that Gargiulo killed her, then like what could Ashton Kutcher have done? So, but I like the breakdown that like, yeah, I don't think like even if he was wrong about what window he looked in, even if he was looking in a different window, like A, it would have been clear that is not the kitchen, and B, it like you can't, okay, it explains why he maybe couldn't see her, but it's like I don't know. Yeah, I still think you would have had to like enter, plus it makes sense that if someone killed her and then left, that the door is unlocked, like what, they locked the door back behind them. So like would he have tried the handle? He's saying he stood there and knocked and knocked and knocked and called and called and called, and so like I imagine he would have tried the handle, especially if they've been together for 2 months. And so did he stick his head all the way in and say, yeah, it looks like a long trail of wine, I'm going to go. But then he left the going in part out because he thought that sounded bad. But then also, like, then you wouldn't need to call Danny Masterson and say, she stood me up and she's drunk. Like, so.
I agree. Yeah. I also think, like, what do I think? Oh, I was going to say, I think it's interesting that with like Maria Bruno and Michelle Murphy, it's like clear, they're able to like clearly tell like how he entered the house and like where he entered from. And with Ashley, there's like no sign of forced entry, no open windows, and so like they believe that like she would have let him in, but then like what are the odds like she would let him in as she was stepping out of the shower, or she let him in and then went and took a shower?
Yeah, no.
That seems strange.
If Ashton Kutcher was on the phone with her when she was getting out of the shower at 8:20, and she was like, all right, I'm going to start getting ready, and he's like, cool, I'm going to head over soon, like, she would have just left the door unlocked for him.
Yeah.
And like,
so really, it's his fault. Anyway.
Either way. Yeah. But like, I mean, maybe she left the door unlocked a lot. Like, we don't really know. But like, if someone is like on their way to get you and they've seen you naked before, like, you're probably just gonna, like, she's probably like, all right, I'm gonna go in the back. I'll get dressed. Like, I'll leave the door open. Which, A, answers how a killer could have gotten in. But B, answers why Ashton Kutcher may have just walked in if he's used to doing that. And then it's also like, that's a guilty party would start to distance themselves and be like, oh, we had just been seeing each other, like, blah, blah, blah. I was late, like, kind of make it like not a big deal.
Yeah.
And probably someone who's a serial criminal like Danny Masterson would have been pretty good at being like, just make it no big deal. But also, I think that begs the question, did he actually show up at 10:45? Like, but then...
Why is it 2 hours between she gets out of the shower?
But then you had said that police said if he showed up at 10:45, their estimated time of death was like right before that. So like that confuses me.
No, I think I was confused.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they said that.
I thought they said that on the video you showed, but maybe not. Maybe I'm mixing stuff together. But either way, like, yeah, the timing is weird to me. Or is that like a lie on Ashton Kutcher's part that he's saying 820, but it was like, I don't know. But yeah, no, I think he was up to some shady shit. I think it explains a lot of things for me.
Yeah.
Fine, good. It went back to hating Ashton Kutcher. That's all I wanted.
That's how we like it around here.
Yeah.
Tell me who I should do next that we hate.
Yes. Joe Judice. I have a gift.
What?
If you want some of our merch, you can use code CRIME15 for 15% off select items. A lot of those include our Halloween merch from last year, and this code will be good through Halloween. So if you want some 15% off some merch, CRIME15. You can use the link in our Instagram bio to get to our bonfire. That's all.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
We need to figure out what to do for Halloween.
I know.